What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. And this is a video that I think a lot of people expected me to make at the beginning of this season, but I just kind of touched on it a little bit, and now I want to make a video on it because of how well William Nylander is playing. But I would suggest, if you're somebody watching this video and you don't like Nylander, just watch it, hear what I have to say, and then give your opinion in the comment section down below, because I do believe that I have a lot of stuff here that makes a ton of sense. And I'm not here to just push the narrative and make you like him, but I think at the end of the day, as Leaf fans and as hockey fans, we need to start looking at the positives versus the negatives. Unless there's just a ton of negatives and the player is, effectively hurting the team. But to say that a guy like William Nylander is hurting the Maple Leafs is a bit comical. It's a bit of a joke at this point, and I think it's more of a meme than anything, and I think there's just people that just hate just to hate. So we're going to be going through this video. Please, I'd really appreciate if you'd comment after watching the video. Again, that's all I ask. You don't even have to like the video. If you just give me the time to express myself, that's it. So the first thing I wanted to start off with here is that William Nylander is 23 years old. Now, I don't know what you were doing at 23 years old, or maybe you're not even 23 yet. I am 23 years old. My whole life is not set in stone. I haven't reached my full potential yet, and there's so much more that I know I'm going to be able to do, but I'm 23 and I know that time is coming, and I'm building towards being, a perfect version of myself, and being able to go out there and do what I want to do at an elite level, regardless of whatever it is. But I'm still young, I'm still working on that. When you were 23, if you had your whole life figured out and everything was good, congratulations. Seriously, I'm not saying that to be sarcastic. That's great. But you have to realize, this is still a young age, and you're building towards being the best, or your elite version of yourself, and you haven't reached your full potential. So there's some players that can walk into the league, boom, full potential already. Great. Those are elite star players, top of the caliber players. Then there's guys that are developing their skills, and then when they're around 25 or 26, it's like, boom, this is what they're going to be. They're going to be awesome. And we've already seen Nylander hit 60 points twice. He's on pace for more than 70 points this year. He's going to score over 30 goals. He's 2 away from his career high in goals. He's got 20, and he's only 23. He hasn't reached that full potential. So for some people who are looking at him and going, well, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that, well, you kind of have to give him time. Austin Matthews, look at the way he's changed a little bit defensively, even over just this year. At the beginning of the year, that was a big complaint. Now, it looks like he's in the defensive zone more. He's making good plays. I mean, just last game, he back-checked and stole a puck multiple times. And people are like, whoa, look at Austin Matthews coming back and doing his thing. It takes time to grow into that style of player. And, for guys like William Nylander, maybe that comes, maybe that doesn't. But to say that, he has to be amazing and elite and all this stuff like that right now is a little bit ridiculous. But I think he's been doing a really good job at the type of game that he plays. So the next thing that I want to bring up is, how did Nylander come into the NHL? What was his expectations? What was, the book on William Nylander? So I have some stuff written beside me. It's actually a big whiteboard. I was marking down some stuff, looking at stats, and I'll be able to put a bunch of stuff on the screen. But his biggest strengths were that he was a really good skater, one of the most skilled guys in his draft class. He's a neutral zone type of guy. He's a beast in the neutral zone. He's able to carry pucks in to the offensive zone, being effective in the neutral zone. He actually takes the puck away in the neutral zone quite a lot. If you look at his numbers, even last year when people said he was dreadful and awful, he had a lot of really good numbers in the neutral zone. He's a really good puck handler and a good playmaker. The guy can make really good passes. And I looked on a website, and it says his probability of success in the NHL would be a C. Now, I would argue that he's up towards a B or a B plus in terms of how successful he's been. He's going to score 30 goals this year. He's got multiple 60-point seasons, on pace for more than 70 this year. So if you're looking at that, he's a skill guy. That's what he was brought to the Maple Leafs to be. The Maple Leafs knew that. It's not like they drafted him and thought, well, why doesn't he throw a bunch of hits? That's not what his job is. He does not need to be that style of player. You have to stick to your strengths. And I believe it was Mike Kelly. I don't want to be disrespectful by pronouncing the name or getting the guy wrong, but he just did an interview on TSN with Andy Petrillo and Craig Button, I believe, and they were talking about Mike was bringing up that William Nylander was really good and that people need to pay attention to how good he is. And it kind of sparked my interest to make this video because I didn't want to be honest with you, because I wanted to wait until the end of the season. But I felt like I wanted to get off some of my thoughts that I had even at the beginning of the season, because I don't want to be the guy that toots his own horn or anything. But I said William Nylander's really good and he's going to show it this year. But Mike Kelly was saying, if people just looked at his strengths, people would be so happy with the type of player he is. And I know it is a very, it's a smaller crowd that hates Nylander, but that crowd is so vocal on social media, it's ridiculous. But if you stick to looking at his strengths and stick to looking how good he is, people would be so much happier with how good he is. Now, let's look at some of his weaknesses. People say he doesn't back check enough. I would argue there's some games where he's lazy back to the puck. They also say his physicality. Well, I just like to let you guys know that if you just look up hitting statistics, there's a lot of players that you guys deem to be physical guys and they get into the dirty areas, but they don't. And they don't throw a lot of hits. Just go and look up the NHL hit leaders. You'll be surprised of a lot of the guys that are there. Of course, there's guys that are up there that make sense, like a few guys from Boston and, teams that are physical. But, every other player in the book is a physical player. But William Nylander and this style of game in hockey, there's a lot of guys that aren't physical. I think it's just a little bit, it's nonsense for people to just deem being a physical player as, that's what takes him to the next level. Of course, and who knows, William Nylander's a fit guy. Go and check out his Instagram. Just look at the guy. People we're talking about that he looks like Kessel. Guys, have you ever looked at the way this guy works out? Jesus, guys, all it takes is a little bit of research. He could grow in, to being a more physical guy. Who knows? It takes a little bit of time. Stick to his strengths. Look at his strengths, and there's way more strengths than there are weaknesses. Like, I don't really even know how bad his weaknesses are, because there are some stats that are misleading in terms of his giveaway and takeaway numbers, but I will get to that. Speaking of not being, a physical or doesn't do the dirty work and whatever, people like Zach Hyman and this, that, whatever. And guess what? They do a good job. Zach Hyman will throw some hits, dig out a puck, and get it out front. Well, Mike Kelly brought up a really good point, and I'll show you guys a picture right now. William Nylander is second in league scoring at the time I'm recording this video, which is Thursday, the 16th of January, 2020. He's second in the league in scoring in that area that you're seeing on the photo. Now, people would consider that the dirty areas out front. Of course the corners are, but you're not scoring from the corners unless it's a weird bounce. But the dirty areas out front, Nylander is second in the entire league. Now, Mike Kelly brought up a really good point with this too. He said, first of all, Sebastian Aho is number 1 in the league, and he's not a physical guy. He's a smaller guy. He's just a skill guy, which is really good. He does a lot of really good things. I'm a huge fan of the guy. Same thing with William Nylander. They just go out there and they score from that area. They score from pretty much anywhere. But he's got like 14 goals from that area. Now, like I said, getting back to Mike Kelly's point, he's like, just because, people want players to go out there and throw a cross-check and punch somebody and whatever and then score, oh, look at that, they did it. It doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to score in the dirty areas and punch somebody in the face. As long as the puck goes in the net, who cares? So, again, the whole he doesn't go to the net thing doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, let me just bring up, too, his cap hit, because I think a lot of people still like to bring up how much money he makes. First of all, it's not $10 million. I don't know where people are getting these numbers. Go to capfriendly.com. He made $10 million in his first season prorated because of the whole situation that went down with him going down to the wire to get a contract before the season started. He's not making $10 million a season. His AAV is just under $7 million. So stop saying he makes over $7 million. He does not. He makes under $7 million. It's barely under, but it is under. So stop trying to make it look worse than it is. But there's a lot of players in the league that aren't scoring, they aren't doing much, they're not hitting, they're not fighting, they're not scoring, they're not making good plays, and they're getting paid around the same amount of money. So if you guys want to have one of those guys, be my guest. I'd rather have a 23-year-old that's going to score over 30 goals and have over 70 points. It's getting ridiculous to this point. His cap is not a problem. He's producing at a level that he should be. There's way worse contracts in the league. There's a book of worse contracts in the league than William Nylander. And in a few years, I keep saying it, this contract will look like nothing because the cap keeps going up every year. It's probably going to go up minimum $2 million this year. So again, a $6 million, $7 million, whatever you want to call him, under $7 million player is not going to affect the Leafs cap in a few years. It's not even really affecting them now. The Leafs don't need to trade William Nylander for a defenseman. Again, I don't get where this is coming from. You can trade a Kerfoot, Kapanen, or Johnsson because the Leafs have an abundance of guys that can play in a depth role. You can trade one of those guys plus a Cody Ceci in another deal or package them with Bracco and a high pick, whatever, and you're clearing out like $6 million. You can bring in a really good defenseman for that money. And in the offseason, the Leafs don't have to re-sign Muzzin, Barrie, or Ceci, and you can go and get a guy like Pietrangelo. The Leafs are not in trouble. I keep trying to tell people this. Go on Cap Friendly. Do the armchair GM. The Leafs will be fine. Nylander's not going to be a problem on that cap hit. It's just, I don't know. I'm just trying to explain my points here without being too crazy. Now, another thing that I like that Mike Kelly brought up was hockey sense. Now, this is something that a lot of people seem to ignore, and I will get to another point here in terms of how I viewed players before. Now, hockey sense is something that's overlooked by hockey fans because the smarts of a player is, again, you can't really mark it with a statistic. You're just watching the player and watching, whoa, okay, that's a smart move. Guys like Marner, super smart. He always knows where people are. Like, there's guys with high hockey IQ, like a Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon. I'm trying to think of some players, too, that are just smart hockey players. Like, people don't want to admit this, but Brad Marchand, he uses his head for a lot of different things. Some that may not be so good, but he's literally just always using his head. I'm going to get into the head of this guy right now because now I'll piss him off. He'll take a penalty. Or, I'm going to make this pass to Pasternak and then I'm going to rush out to the front of the net. Like, guys are just smart. There's a lot of really smart hockey players out there, and that's something that Nylander does. A lot of people bring up the perimeter player excuse because when he enters the zone, he does that button hook, and it's right up against the boards. But Mike Kelly also brought up a really good point here. It's like, if you really watched hockey, you'll see that a lot of players use that to their advantage, and they use the perimeter to tire out players because they can't catch them. That's not exactly what he said, but I'm adding to the point. When William Nylander has the puck, he'll do that button hook. He's been doing that literally since he played in Sweden. You can just look up his scouting reports or watch any of his video footage. The reason why he does that is because he loses the player. So if Nylander does that button hook and the player's right here following him, that player stops while he's taking another stride. So he's stopping. This guy goes this way. He's going this way, and it creates space. That's what Nylander's doing. He's creating space so that way he can make a play, make a pass, or, think of his next move. That's all hockey sense. That's not just perimeter play. Like, there's literally accounts that call him Perimeter Willie on Twitter. Watch hockey. Just watch the game. So many players use the perimeter to their advantage, and then they go towards the net when they need to. They pop in and out. Look at a guy like Ovechkin when he's on the power play. He does the perimeter thing, tries to lose himself, and then bam, he comes in and shoots out of nowhere. Matthews has started to do that. Try to lose yourself in the corner, lose it, boom, then come in, and you're wide open. Nylander does the same thing, but he uses the outside sometimes to gain speed. So you'll see him do the hook, and then he'll stick handle, and he'll go around the net, and you're like, why does he still have the puck? Well, these guys who are slower than him can't catch up, so it's giving himself more time and space to make a good play, and usually he does do that. So again, it's just a little bit ridiculous. I think that I just think that people want the same stereotypical type of player, and if everybody was the same, hockey would be so boring. I rather watch guys who have skill and can go out there and make good plays. When I was younger, I used to be a huge Ty Domi fan. He used to fight all the time, do stupid stuff, and I loved it. But guess what? A lot of the stuff that he did was just stupid, and in today's game with brain injuries and all the research that they have now, I'm not into that stuff. I do not think that it's really good. I love watching a good hockey fight here and there. Again, like I'm not here sitting here saying that there shouldn't be any guys that fight or whatever. They can do what they want. and it's fun to watch. I just love hockey. I love the game, and I'm not going to sit here and compare, apples and oranges. Nylander's not that style of player, nor does he have to be, nor should he. Stick to your strengths. Now, I also believe that the style of physical type of player is a dying breed, but again, people don't want to agree with that. Just look at the fighting numbers throughout the years. It's a dying breed. This is another thing when it comes to the style of player. So let's say you're in school, okay, and you're really good at math. Like you're good. Like let's just say you're just a good student. You're good at math, okay. And there's a math program, and then there's a science program. Why, if you are so good at math, would you go into the science program? You're already where you need to be. You're just getting out of high school. You're trying to make a living off of something. Why would you change the way that you are in school when you're already so good at something? You can keep doing that thing and make money from it and be even better. Like why does people want Nylander to somehow turn into some physical monster within a night? Like let's just let him be good at what he does. Mitch Marner is good at what he does. Matthews good at what he does. Marchand good at what he does. Carlo on Boston, good at what he does. I love using Boston as an example because everybody for some reason wants the Leafs to be the Bruins. Maybe because they've matched up over the past few years, but they don't have to be those style of players. They're skill players. Sure, do the Leafs need a bit more physicality? Absolutely. They need more guys that can throw hits. But you're not going to sacrifice an elite player for a guy who scores 2 goals and has 10 points in 70 games just because he bashes somebody's face in every once in a while. Those fights and those whatever will not count in the playoffs. The teams like the Bruins are just trying to get in your head. Guys like Marchand are trying to get in your head. They're not trying to fight. We need guys that can hit, sure, but you can get that without sacrificing an elite talent. So, again, let's stop the Nylander for a backup and a fourth line guy who's going to play 2 minutes in the playoffs. It's ridiculous. And the same thing goes for trading the ridiculous rumors of we should trade Kapanen for a career backup goaltender who's never had a goals against average less than like 2.90. Like, guys, I'll get to that in another video. Now, I wanted to bring up his giveaways and takeaways numbers. So, currently, people love to say that William Nylander gives away the puck way too much. Now, if you look at the giveaway category, in 36 games played, Mitch Marner leads the Leafs in giveaways. Now, I'm not going to sit here and bash Marner. The reason why he gives away the puck a lot is because when you play a lot, when you have the puck a lot, you're going to give it away. Same thing goes for guys like Tavares, Matthews, Nylander, whatever. Nylander is 8th on the team in giveaways with 28. If you want to count 7 because for some reason Freddie Anderson's on there, I would just say 7th, okay? So he has 28 giveaways. If we look at takeaways, he's 3rd on the team. He takes the puck away from teams. He's done it 30 times, according to these statistics. So he actually takes the puck away more than he gives it away. So, again, not really sure where people are saying, oh my God, he gives away the puck too much. Oh, he gives it away every game. That's less than a game average, way less than a game average that he gives a puck away. Just look at the stats, look at the numbers. Please, for the love of God, just read the statistics. It does not make any sense. He does not give away the puck is the most on the team. And this was the same thing that people had problems with Jake Gardiner. I made a video on that. It was half an hour long. It's probably going to be another half an hour with this video. But Jake Gardiner had less giveaways in like games 1 through 6 against Boston. He had like the least amount of giveaways, and people were like, oh, he's giving it away like 5 times every game. It's like, oh, just read the stats. That's not real. Okay, I just need to look up some more stats here. 41 points in 47 games played. He's on a really good pace right now. 20 goals. He's 2 away from his career high. He only has 4 penalty minutes, so he stays out of the box. That's pretty good. You don't want a guy that takes a lot of penalties. 50% on the face-off, so not great numbers, but he's still 50% off. 50% off. Yeah, he's discounted. No, 50% on the face-off dot, which is really good. Now, another thing that I wanted to bring up was another reference. Now, this one was kind of funny, and I keep bringing up these references because I want to drive them home with people. I bring up basketball, and it's like people want a player in the NHL. Let's just take Nylander, for instance, because that's what this video is about, and they want him to play a different style? Why do you want him to crash and bang to the net? Why do you want him to be physical when that's not what he does good? So let's use basketball. Let's take some star players from the past 15 years. One, Steph Curry. Smaller guy in terms of NBA size because he's like over 6 feet, which is ridiculous. Like, I'm 6 feet tall. Couldn't imagine playing against those guys. So he's a point guard. He's flashy. He shoots a lot. He's really good, like elite talent. In no ways am I comparing the skill level of Nylander and Curry, because one of them is a superstar and the other one is just a star player. But in terms of, they're both skilled guys. They're not guys that do, they don't get in the paint and they're not physical, right? So you take Steph Curry, okay? Put him up against Shaquille O'Neal. Why would you want that matchup? That doesn't make sense. So why would you expect William Nylander to go and try to knock out Zdeno Chara in front of the net? Let him weave in and out, score goals, do his thing, boom. And in terms of even strength scoring, this is another thing I want to bring up. 5-on-5 play, so no power play stuff. William Nylander has as many goals as Connor McDavid on 5-on-5, and McDavid's played a game more than him. Now, of course, McDavid is the best in the league. I'm never going to compare them in terms of overall game. But in terms of even strength goals, that's the only thing I'm comparing them for. They both have 14 at the time I'm recording this. So Nylander gets it done 5-on-5. He knows how to. And again, people like, take him away from Matthews and he'll suck. Look at the playoffs last year. He played with Kadri, fantastic. Played with Tavares. This year, amazing. They've looked great together. Him and Matthews, of course, they look amazing. So, I mean, you're always going to play skilled guys with skilled guys. Why wouldn't John Tavares want to play with him? Because they're both skilled. He's going to feed him the puck. He's going to give him chances to score, and we've seen it time and time again. Now, I'm going to try to see what else that I missed here. I don't think I've missed a lot because I wrote down a ton of stuff. Like, actually, I might as well show you guys the board. Like, I wrote down a bunch of stuff here. But, yeah, no, and again, I'll end it off with me kind of giving my thoughts on how I used to evaluate players. Because, again, I don't want to mispronounce her name, Rahef or Rahiv. I do not want to mispronounce her name, but she has a really good Twitter account. And I remember I was going off on Twitter, and I've said this in videos before. And I was saying, this guy sucks, this doesn't work, this, that, and the other. And she's like, dude, look at the stats. And then I looked at them, I'm like, okay, that tells a different story. So then the next game I'm watching closely, and I'm like, man, I really would focus on negative stuff instead of looking at the positives. Okay, my camera decided to turn off, but just to finish this off, if you focus on the positives, if you look at the overall game and not just focus on one thing, you're going to find that a lot of players that you think aren't very good actually do a lot of things good. And that's why with the Marins and stuff, I made a video talking about the fact that he's a 7th defenseman. He's a good backup option if you really need him to play some minutes to fill in for an injured player. And at $700,000, you shouldn't really hate the deal, but people were like freaking out. It's just, you got to look at what a player's role is, what he does, and focus on that. There's always going to be negatives unless you're, Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, whatever. But if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Join the squad. Let's get to 7,000 subscribers. Again, this was a video that I wanted to do for a long time, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video or stream. Peace.